Austin, Texas. The mare skeletal shadows of the massive Sterling estate didn't just hold secrets. They held a heart-protective fury that was about to dismantle 3 lives forever. Isabella was the ordinary girl who thought she had found her a masterpieces of a life when she married Leo Sterling, a man with a heart of gold, but a schedule that kept him in the now basement of shadows of corporate law for 18 hours a day. But the real master of the house wasn't Leo. It was his father, Arthur Sterling, a man who lived in a strange ritual of wealth, power, and a fake authority that masked a disturbing obsession. Arthur didn't just welcome Isabella into the family. He began to play a hard secret guardian role that felt off. It started with the madon sensory anchors of small, uninvited gestures. A hand lingering too long on her shoulder, a strange calm in his eyes when Leo wasn't in the room, and the non-specific data point of her favorite flowers appearing on her bedside table every morning while Leo was away. Isabella felt a rising injustice in her own gut, a mystery loop she couldn't explain. She loved Leo with a pure American passion, but Arthur's presence was like a skeletal ghost haunting her every move. He was taking advantages of Leo's absence to weave a web of now forbidden emotions and her psychological warfare that made Isabella feel like she was losing her mind. Arthur would whisper specific data points about Leo's past and a forged records of old flames and our fake documentation of betrayals, all designed to plant the seeds of doubt in Isabella's heart. He was playing a how disturbing mind game or making her believe that he was the only one she could truly trust. Leo doesn't see your value. Sweetheart, Arthur would growl in a hot, pure American silences that felt like he's malnourished of the capacity to love a woman like you. But I see everything. Isabella felt the heavy silences of the mansion closing in. She was clutching the linnet of her sanity, unaware that the identity flip Arthur was planning would lead to a horrifying reality that would leave her wiped, cleaned of everything she believed in. The injustice was just beginning, and the Nenstern it was about to create would be insane. As the weeks rolled by, the pure American silence of the Sterling estate started to feel like a physical weight on Isabella's chest. Arthur's disturbing mind game was shifting into high gear. He wasn't just in the hallways anymore. He was living inside her head, planting seeds of doubt that grew like weeds in a Texas summer. Whenever Leo was stuck late at the office, Arthur would emerge from the darkness like a skeletal ghost, his presence thick with an unspoken, forbidden emotion that made Isabella's skin crawl and her heart race at the same time. He was taking advantage of every lonely hour she spent, slowly dismantling the image of the man she loved. Arthur started showing her fake documentation, bank statements, and forged records he claimed were proof of Leo's double life. He manufactured specific data points, so convincing that Isabella's trust began to flicker like a dying candle. "You're a prisoner here, Isabella," he'd whisper, his voice a strange calm that felt like a predator cornering its prey. "Leo sees you as an ordinary girl, a trophy to be dusted and left on a shelf. But to me, you're a masterpiece that's being wasted." Isabella felt herself slipping into a mystery loop, trapped between her loyalty to her husband and the strange attention Arthur was suffocating her with. This was an injustice happening within her own walls, a silent war she felt she was losing. One night, during a thunderstorm that knocked the power out, Arthur appeared at her bedroom door. In the shadows, his eyes didn't look like a secret guardian's. They looked like a total outlaw's eyes, hungry and calculating. He told her Leo was in a hotel at that very moment with another woman, showing her specific data points on a tablet that seemed to confirm her worst fears. Her heart didn't just break. It felt shattered into a million pieces. In that moment of total vulnerability, Arthur reached out and took her hand. His touch wasn't a protective fury. It was a trap. Isabella felt like she was lost control, falling into a basement of shadows, where the only exit was total destruction. Arthur had broken her down so far that she started feeling guilty for things she hadn't even done yet. simply because she was becoming a pawn in his sick game. The atmosphere in the Sterling mansion was now a heavy silence that felt like it was suffocating the life out of Isabella. The identity flip was almost complete. Arthur had successfully made her believe that her husband was a stranger and that her father-in-law was her only secret guardian, the sensory anchor of her life. The scent of Leo's cologne, the sound of his laugh was being replaced by the strange rituals Arthur forced upon her. He started insisting they dine alone, creating a fake scene of intimacy while Leo was miles away, malnourished of the truth of what was happening in his own home. Arthur's disturbing mind game took a darker turn when he began to gaslight her about her own memories. He would move specific data points in the house, Isabella's jewelry, her waterproof notebook, her car keys, and then help her find them, whispering that she was becoming fragile and needed his protection. This was taking advantage at its most clinical level. He was dismantling her autonomy, making her believe she couldn't survive a single day without his fake authority to guide her. The forbidden emotions were no longer just whispers. They were becoming a protective fury, she felt, for the only man who seemingly cared for her, Arthur. It was a masterpiece of manipulation, a mystery loop that had her spinning in circles of guilt and confusion. Every time Leo came home, Isabella felt a rising injustice in her chest. She looked at him through the lens Arthur had provided, the lens of betrayal. Leo would try to hold her, but she felt skeletal in his arms. Her mind occupied by the forged records and fake documentation Arthur had burned into her brain. She felt like she was living in a basement of shadows, even when she was standing in the sun. Arthur would watch them from across the room, a strange calm on his face that masked the total outlaw nature of his plan. He was waiting for the micro-climax, the moment Isabella would finally snap and turn to him fully, wiping clean any trace of the life she once had. She was clutching the line of her marriage with bloody fingers, while Arthur stood by with a knife, ready to cut the cord and watch her fall. The atmosphere in the Sterling mansion had shifted from a heavy silence to a skeletal chill. Arthur was no longer just playing a game. He was taking advantage of the total isolation he'd built around Isabella. He staged a fake scene that would be the final blow to her sanity. One evening, while Leo was supposedly at a late-night board meeting, Arthur led Isabella to the basement of shadows, the high-tech security wing of the house. He showed her a live feed of a hotel lobby, grainy and dark. In the footage, a man who looked exactly like Leo was checking in with a blonde woman draped over his arm. The sensory anchor of that moment, the low hum of the servers and the flickering blue light of the monitor, burned into Isabella's soul. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. The specific data points seemed undeniable. But she didn't know these were forged records and deep-fake videos Arthur had spent months perfecting. Isabella felt her world dismantling in real time. She let out a skeletal sob, her pure American pride crushed under the weight of this injustice. Arthur moved in, his voice a strange calm that felt like a predator, finally closing the mystery loop. I told you, Isabella, he's malnourished of loyalty. He doesn't deserve a secret guardian like you. You've been clutching the line for a man who doesn't exist. In her state of total lost control, Isabella did exactly what Arthur wanted. She sought comfort in the only identity flip left, the one Arthur had crafted. She leaned into him, her heart wiped clean of hope. Arthur's forbidden emotions were now out in the open, his protective fury a mask for a much darker hunger. He began to whisper about a new life, a total outlaw plan to leave the country together, using Leo's inheritance to fund their escape. Isabella felt like she was drowning, but Arthur was the only one offering a hand, even if that hand was covered in the blood of her marriage. She didn't realize she was standing on the edge of a horrifying reality that was about to shatter the silence of the Sterling name forever. The micro-climax arrived on a night when the Texas sky was blacker than coal. Leo returned home early, his face malnourished from exhaustion, but his eyes were sharp. He had been documenting the pain of his own suspicions for weeks. He didn't find a happy home. He found a basement of shadows filled with betrayal. He walked into the library to find Isabella and Arthur standing too close. The forbidden tension between them thick enough to cut with a knife. The sensory anchor of the room was the smell of Arthur's expensive scotch and the skeletal paleness of Isabella's face. "What is this, Dad?" Leo's voice was a pure American growl, a protective fury he had been holding back. Arthur didn't flinch. He played his fake authority to the very end. "She knows, Leo. She knows about the hotels. She knows about the forged records. The injustice you've put her through is over." Isabella looked at Leo with a skeletal stare, waiting for him to lie, but Leo didn't look guilty. He looked shattered. He pulled a waterproof notebook. From his coat, not his father's fake documentation, but a private investigator's report on Arthur. The identity flip happened in a heartbeat. Leo began to read specific data points that dismantled Arthur's lies. He showed Isabella the secret Guardian software Arthur had used to spoof Leo's phone and create the deepfake videos. The horrifying reality hit Isabella like a freight train. Arthur hadn't been protecting her. He had been taking advantage of her, gaslighting her into a mystery loop of guilt and shame. But the darkest truth was yet to come. Leo turned the page to a set of old medical records. Arthur wasn't just obsessed with Isabella. He was trying to wipe clean the memory of Leo's own mother, a woman Arthur had locked in a basement of psychological abuse until she met a tragic end. The stir in the room was electric as the total outlaw. Nature of Arthur's soul was finally unmasked in front of the son he tried to destroy. The pure American silence that followed was the sound of a family shattering into a million pieces. Arthur stood there, his strange calm finally breaking, his face a skeletal mask of rage and exposure. He didn't apologize. He didn't beg for mercy. He looked at Isabella with a forbidden emotion that was pure poison. "I gave you everything," he hissed, his fake authority gone. "I would have been your secret guardian forever. Leo is nothing. He's just a shadow of me." But the identity flip was permanent. Isabella backed away, the sensory anchor of Arthur's touch, now feeling like a crimson sting on her soul. The heartbreaking revelation wasn't just the betrayal, it was the realization of the time lost control. Isabella looked at Leo, the man she had doubted, the man she had allowed Arthur to dismantle in her heart. The injustice was so deep that even the truth couldn't fix the masterpiece of destruction Arthur had created. Leo didn't yell. He didn't fight. He just looked at his father with a strange ritual of pity. "You're not a man, Dad. You're just a skeletal ghost of a life that never was." Leo took Isabella's hand, but the forbidden emotions and the guilt had created a basement of shadows between them that might never be wiped clean. Arthur was led away and mechanical, clicking handcuffs as the military command of the law finally arrived to dismantle his empire of forged records and fake documentation. The Sterling estate, once a symbol of untouchable power, was now just a statistic of a broken home. This moral story reminds us that real power is built on truth, not mind games. The identity flip proved that the person who claims to be your secret guardian might just be the one locking you in a basement of lies. The mystery loop was closed, but the heartbreak was an untouchable legacy that would haunt them all forever. Friends, Arthur played the ultimate disturbing mind game, but he forgot that the Texas truth always comes to light. If you believe that justice always wins and that Arthur got exactly what he deserved, smash that like button right now. And if you want more heartbreaking moral stories of betrayal, grit, and the shocking truth, hit the subscribe button for Real Veil Studios. Comment below, Team Truth if you cheered when Arthur was unmasked. Stay loyal, ride for the truth, and we'll see you in the next one.